welcome back to Relentless Talk Radio. This is episode 94. Super excited to be on the line here with Julia Skye and Michele Knowlton-Thorne. And this is the third Tuesday in the month, which means it's Relentless Women Mastermind Week. And just to give you a little background story of how this whole thing started, I originally started with Alyssa Glutz and Sharon Bondron, and both really awesome friends of mine, but we were so busy all the time that we had a hard time, all three of us, making time on Tuesday. Because busy women are busy, right? So I decided to start having a tag team where I had two women. We'll tag next month's women, right? So Julia was nominated by Vicki, Gibson, Hutchison, who has a company called The Stage to Grow. And Michele Knowlton-Thorne was Cerise Payton, who has a company called Sacred Spiritual Tours and Singing the Truth. So you guys have people in common who have people in common who have people in common. I just love how this is how the shows ended up being. So I'm going to let you guys tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do. So Julia, you go first.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Julia Skye, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. And I also, for the last 20 years, I'm a licensed wealth advisor, mentor, and coach. And I just recently launched an expansion of all of my businesses. I decided I wanted to put everything together and under one umbrella. And the new name of that expansion is She Flies with Her Own Wings, a woman's essential guide to a wealthy and wondrous life. Uh-oh. Michele looks like she disappeared. Oh no.
Michele has disappeared. Okay.
We just lost the internet connection. How can that happen with an Ethernet cable?
Oh no.
Hopefully that doesn't happen again. I'm hardwired to the internet this week. So sorry about that. Julia, we lost you right when you were giving your website, and go ahead and keep going. Hopefully it won't happen.
Okay, yeah, just sheflieswithherownwings.com. That's my website. That's the name of my business, and it's about a woman's essential guide to a wealthy and wondrous life. So that's what I do. I help women I guide them and coach them and partner with them to help them have a wealthy and wondrous life.
I looked at your website, so I'm just double checking and making sure that Facebook has still got us going live, and it does. Okay, great. Boy, I tell you, every week I do the show, it's like, oh, okay, a new thing that hadn't happened before happens, right?
Yeah.
I love the name of it. She Flies with Her Own Wings.
Thank you.
We have something in common. Well, we have a couple things in common. Number one, we're both polypreneurs, and I'm also a financial advisor. Okay. And I totally get, when I looked at your website, I chuckled. I totally get it.
Awesome.
I totally get it, because when you're sitting in front of somebody, I was always shocked when I was sitting in front of somebody and I said, okay, so how much money do you need to pay your bills? Just simple question. Like every month, what do you need? And I was always amazed at, number one, people didn't know.
Nope, they don't.
And number two, the litany of stuff that question would bring up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We all have issues with money, right? We all do. And they're all different.
And I also feel like it's the number one reason why small business fail is financial concerns, and it's the number one reason why marriages fail. Yet it's the one thing we don't spend a copious amount of time learning about in school. And which one of us has Alyssa Glutz in common? Because I looked at our common people. Michele, do you know her?
I think I do. Yes.
She has a company called Color My Credit.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that she wants to do is to teach financial education in high schools and grammar schools to kids. Mm-hmm. And it's just so super smart. So we learn nothing about credit. We learn nothing about saving. We learn nothing about any of that. And that's the biggest reason why marriages and businesses fail. So when I looked at the programs that you're doing,
yes,
mm-hmm. and how you're combining health coaching and business coaching and personal coaching, just coaching period, right, with finances is just super duper smart. And it's kind of the way believe it or not, that awareness has led me to Relentless Talk Radio. I know it sounds crazy. It just ended up being that I had started having conversations with people, and it led me to Relentless Talk Radio. But really, when I was leaving my practice with Edward Jones, the one thing I realized that I could do to change the world was to help people make a living so they could invest it. So I love the trajectory of your business, and we'll talk some more about the details of it in a minute. But I wanted to give Michele an opportunity to tell us what she does, and just you're also a polypreneur. You're doing two things. I love that I had to put two websites on for both of you. It's so awesome. So Michele, tell us about what you do. And I'm fascinated because I went and read your bio pre-show, and I'm like, wait a minute, she's a scientist.
Yeah.
Amazing. So tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I feel like I've lived two different lives. So in a past life, I was a scientist. I was a geneticist. I have a master's of science degree. I've been published in peer-reviewed journal articles. I'm now currently writing a STEM picture book series, which is one of the businesses. But after I got my master's degree, both of my children got diagnosed with autism. And so this path that I was walking, down kind of went, and so I had to kind of go this way. And so I'm no longer at the bench doing genetic research, but I did found a company that focuses on providing self-care and support to parents who are raising special needs children, because it's just lacking right now out there.
I love that, because, my whole life has kind of gone that way. You start to move down one path and you think you're going to learn certain things, but something happens in your life that gets you to pivot and turn on a dime, and it's necessary and it makes sense. And so you do that. I mean, if you had told me I was to be doing a talk show on Facebook that goes to YouTube, that goes to Instagram television, that goes to podcasts, when I was in art school, I would say, I'm not sure how that would happen, but okay, I guess, but how would that happen? Sometimes you just kind of, the path to success is like a bowl of spaghetti. It is not just a straight line to the top, right?
Correct.
And I love, how old are your kids now?
So my son is 8, my daughter is 5.
And they're both did you find out at the same time?
No. So my son, we found out when he was about 3. He is nonverbal, so he's a little more affected. So with him, we kind of knew that something was up and that he was autistic. With my daughter, it was a total surprise. Girls with autism are often not diagnosed until they're very much older. And so we went to put her into this school as a typical child. They ran the test, and I just sat there going, oh, we have to. And they were like, yeah, you have to. I'm like, okay, like I know what I'm doing now, so we'll just keep going.
Well, it basically streamlines where your focus is, I guess, right? Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. So I love how the two of you have both taken a need and kind of the why question for how you guys are both doing what you're doing. I can imagine what the response is, but Julia, why do what you do the way you do it?
Oh, it's multifaceted. There's so many reasons why I do it the way I do. But I mean, bottom line is that, we're all unique. And I really believe that if everybody was living their truth and living their genius and really, living their best life, that I just believe that the world would be a better place. And I believe, and that's what I do, is I help people really tap into who they are. And I mean, I've made a commitment. If you don't mind, I'd like to read it, because I don't want to screw it up. But this is something that I recommend that my clients do. It's something that I help them do when I work with them. But here it goes. So I'm committed to honoring and bringing forth a more environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just, financially secure, compassionate, and loving human presence on this planet. So that's my commitment that I've made, that I've put in writing, that I think is very, very powerful to do that. It's an exercise that I walk my clients through. And so I believe that what I'm doing, the way I'm doing it, honors that commitment that I've made. So I'm interested in all kinds of things. I mean, there's so many, I'm an entrepreneur. I have all kinds of ideas. There's so many things that I want to do. And I've created these different businesses over the years. And I just realized that I'm a creator. I'm always thinking of new ways to do things. And so I needed something that was bigger. I needed a bigger space so that I could continue to create and bring it all together and have it, make sense, rather than keep creating individual businesses that just focus on one thing. It doesn't really honor who I am. And I don't think any of us are really that way. I mean, maybe some people are, maybe some people, there are a few people that are born and they're like, I want to be this for a living. I'm a singer and that's what I'm going to do. And I know it. And I wish that were the case. Sometimes I wish that was me, that I woke up and I was like, oh, okay, I have this one amazing talent and I'm just going to be the best at that. I wish, I'm an amazing tennis player and I'm just going to be the best tennis player in the world. But we're all unique. And so I want to help change the world. And I believe that by investing in ourselves, that we invest in the future, we invest in the world, we're all connected, right? We're all connected. So when you make a change for the better or even the worse, it affects everybody else. So I want to help people live their truth, listen to themselves, be the very best person they can possibly be so they can live a wealthy and wondrous life.
Julia, the words that you just said, you could have literally taken right out of my mouth. I love the book, The One Thing. I get the premise behind it. If any of you have read the book, The One Thing, the idea is that you have to focus on the one thing that's going to move you in the right direction. You have to micro focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't believe people are micro-focused people.
Mm-mm.
And I think that when we lie to ourselves and say, I'm just an insurance agent, or I'm just a real estate person, or I'm just a mechanic, or I'm just a anything, right?
Right. Yeah.
You negate the other things that you are. I am a scientist and a mother and a wife I'm sure, Michelle, you've got a bazillion other hobbies that you do that you're very interested in, that you're all those things. I am a biker. I am an artist. I am a financial advisor. I am all those things. And so my business as well, my over business with Micalizzi Enterprises has several different legs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who I am. I believe in being a Renaissance person or a polymath.
Yes, I'm a Renaissance woman for sure. Yeah.
Right. So, and I think that when you follow the things that you're passionate about, the money will follow.
Mm-hmm.
It might take a second for that to happen. But I love the story that, oh my God, who's the comedian that did the Grinch?
Jim Carrey.
Oh, Jim Carrey. You ever hear his story about his dad?
Mm-mm.
His dad was a comedian.
Okay.
He was super duper funny. But when he got married and had children, he decided to be an accountant so that he could support the family. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening was after 12 years of being an accountant, he was let go and they ended up homeless and just really having severe financial problems. And
Wow.
Jim Carrey will say, you can fail at plan A. You might as well, or you can fail at plan B. You might as well go for plan A.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true. Like if you choose to do things only for money that you don't love, the money is not going to follow because you can't sustain that.
Yeah.
So Michelle, your why is pretty obvious. You got 2 kids in the house that you love. So I mean, I'm assuming that's part of it. But you're also doing the STEM research stuff, and I imagine I'm interested to hear the why for both businesses.
Well, I mean, I think the first one with Dames. So Dames is the name of my first company. So that's Differently Abled Mothers Empowerment Society. Mm-hmm. And the big why there is exactly what you guys are talking about, right? So you start out and you think like, this is the path that I'm going to go to. And then when you're hit with a child having a disability, all of a sudden, even if you have a growth mindset, you get thrown into like this fixed mindset of like, I have to be like stay-at-home mom and I have to take care of my kids. And, doctors throw out all these things about your children will never achieve X, Y, and Z because of this. And I'm trying to pull mothers out of that and back into, no, you can have whatever life you want to have, but you have to get through that grief of whatever that life was before that you had plans and on to the next point in your life and writing that next chapter. Because I think that we stop at that diagnosis sometimes and we're like, well, that's my life now. And it doesn't have to be. And I think that that's really the reasoning behind Dames. And then the Know It All Books, which is the second company, that really just sprang from being a geneticist and seeing a need for more STEM picture books in the field. And I love writing in poetry. So it's in poetry. I found this other autism mom who is a beautiful illustrator. So we worked together on the books, and it's just awesome. I love it.
I'd love to see you add the A in there, though.
What?
For STEAM.
Oh,
Science,
yeah.
technology, engineering, art, because guess what? It's a beautifully illustrated book, and poetry is art. I had a show for my Art of Fearlessly Giving Back show, was actually at the Arizona Science Center.
Nice.
And I used the Arizona Science Center's Makers Lab to make their piece. So it's part of what I do, and that polymath that I am, is these interviews eventually will lead to art.
Nice.
So what I do is I listen to people, and then I write blogs, and the blog and the interview inspires a piece of art.
Uh-huh.
So in the end of next year, all the interviews from 2020 and all the interviews from 2021 will inspire a whole series of paintings.
Oh, cute.
Wow, very cool.
That's what led to Relentless Talk Radio. Was I was having a lot of conversations, and I needed to have one place to hold them. Normally I would be producing art right along, but COVID and moving this year, I had a lot of office moves and just circumstances this year that didn't enable me to work as much. My dad passing away being one of them. So next year there'll be a whole series, and this interview will be part of that series. So I really do encourage you to include the A in at least one of your books, because art really is a very important part of everything, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Listen to history, how we see history, like Egypt and any other history in time. It's usually the artists that are the recorders of the information. It's the artifacts that you find that tell people about what that culture was like. So it's important. It's an important piece of it, I believe.
Yeah.
So you guys are both in business. I mean, you took this thing that you do, and these things that you are, and these passions that are inserted inside of you, and these needs that you discovered, and you turned it into a business where you're monetizing it. What's the biggest lesson you both learned in business? Michelle, you go first on this one. What's the biggest lesson that you both learned in business so far?
Well, I would have to say to not bite off more than you can chew. So when I started Dames, everybody was telling me, it's a charity, it's a charity, it's a charity. And I said, yes, like it falls into the framework of a charity, but there is no way I can start a business, figure out how to do everything within it, how to build it, how to add things, how to get guests for my webinars and do all of that and run a charity. So I started it as a business, and now it's transforming into a charity because now I can. So I think it's just go with your gut. If you feel like, no, I get it. It's a charity, it is, but I'll get there when I can do it. And I think that that's important, is saying no, setting limitations and boundaries in your business, and then going with what your gut instincts are and how to move forward.
I love that, because I actually started out shooting this show at a radio station, which is why it's Relentless Talk Radio, because it was actually radio, starting with radio.
Yeah.
Discovered that I needed to take back control and started shooting on Facebook. Now it goes to YouTube, Instagram, television. And eventually, once I get it to podcasts this year, I'll apply for iHeartRadio and other radio stations, right? But rather than change the name, I left it the way it was because I'd follow the following. But sometimes you've got to do good, better, best, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you wait for it to be the best thing, you would still be applying for the 501c3 status, and you wouldn't have worked out all the things you needed to work out. So you never know the trajectory you're going to go in or the order of things you're supposed to go in. You have to trust your gut, and doing something is better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
And perfectionism is like, it's just I had to give up on perfectionism. It's such a relief, isn't it, when you give up on that?
Yeah.
So you're a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah, like I have friends that kept on saying, I'm going to do a podcast someday. Well, this is the 298th episode that I have shot on using BeLive.
Yeah.
And all the time that my friends have been saying, I'm going to do a podcast, I've had 300 conversations.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, you just got to
know the trajectory. Julia, how about you? What's the biggest lesson you've learned?
You both have, you've covered mostly what I was going to say, but basically nobody knows you better than you know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's what it boils down to, right? Like, be yourself. we're all unique. We're all completely different, unique individuals with unique gifts. And, it doesn't always work to try to do it another person's way. It never works for me when I try to do that. I mean, I've really learned that, other people's programs and systems, there's so many different programs and systems out there. There's so many people out there saying, do it this way. And it can work to a point, but at some point you have to, learn how to fly with your own wings, really. You just got to jump off with 2 feet and you've got to do it your way. You're never going to be fulfilled. You're never going to be as happy and fulfilled as you can be if you're doing it the way other people tell you to do it, if you're just listening to others. So that's the biggest one that I tell my clients is just, nobody knows you better than you know yourself. And that's, you got to learn how to trust yourself though, right? And that's kind of tricky for a lot of people. So that's one of the steps that's one of the things I also help my clients with is help them learn how to trust themselves.
One of the things that fascinated me in the Art of Fearlessly Doing Business series that I did, I had 64 interviews in those series so far. And one of the questions I ask people is, how they became fearless and what they do to manage their fear now. And it's usually 4 questions in, it's towards the end, right? And across the board, every single entrepreneur that I have interviewed says, I no longer have fear. I have opportunities. I have, once you've started enough stuff and you've fallen on your butt enough and you've had to restart, it's not the same fear like you had when you were just beginning, where you're thinking, oh my God, what happens if the internet goes out? What happens if the light's not right? You have all this stuff and then once you have those things happen after a while, you realize that no matter what life or situations are tossed your direction, you're going to figure it out anyway. The sun's going to come up tomorrow. You're still going to have to work it out. So you realize the fear is kind of pointless.
Yeah, I used to be very paralyzed by fear. And I think that once I had a big enough why, I didn't care anymore. Like, I don't care if I set up this program and it doesn't work. Okay, it wasn't what my group needed. It wasn't what my community needed. What do they need? How do I fix it? How do I adjust?
Next, right?
Right? But because I have that big why, it's like, I don't care if I fall on my face, I'm still trying. I'm still trying to do something for them. And that's what matters.
I love that having a big enough why thing. I think that's 100% true. Having a big enough why is what makes you put your feet in the floor in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's why purpose and vision are so important for a successful company. I think it's important for a successful person. It's probably what you coach your people, right? You got to figure out what your why is and then move in that direction.
I do. I help my clients figure out their vision, their mission, their purpose, take a stand, to make a commitment. We work through all of that. But for me, one thing that came up for me when you mentioned fear, I heard this recently and I really liked it a lot. That fear is just excitement without the breath. That they're basically opposite sides of the same coin, right? So often when we're in fear, when we're fearful of something, we hold our breath, like we think it's going to go away. That's what our body does physically, physiologically, we hold our breath. So if you can remember that if you're fearful of something, just check in with yourself, check in with your body. Am I holding my breath? What do I look like right now? What's going on? Am I like doing this with my fists? And then try to remember to breathe. And excitement's on the other side. Fear is the opposite. Excitement's the opposite of fear. So focus on excitement instead. Focus on how would I like to feel right now? What would I prefer to feel right now? I'd rather be excited than fearful. So then just focus on that excitement. And that's the quickest way to actually transform that fear.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about when I'm on my motorcycle. So I rode in the back. I was bikeless for 3 years and I rented here and there, but I wasn't riding as regularly. So I was on the back of my boyfriend's bike a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're on the back, you're not looking where you're going. You're looking around, you're looking down, you're paying attention to the person driving. You're not in charge of the vehicle. So you can squirrel, you know what I mean? You can pay attention to different things. When you get on the bike and you're the one you're the one in the driver's seat, you know. When I first got back on the bike and I was riding regularly and I did some really twisty roads, I found that I was looking down close to where the road was. That's not where you look when you're on a motorcycle. When you're on a motorcycle, you look where you're going, you know, and there's times when you get into a corner where you're like, wait a minute, I forgot what I'm supposed to do. And you literally have to stop and say, wait a minute, you're on the motorcycle, you're moving. So you got to like pay attention and like get with the program, you know?
You have to be in the moment, right?
Right. And it makes you get into the moment where, okay, I got to look at that space in front. I'm pushing, I'm leaning, I'm breathing. But you're right. You get tight and drop your shoulders and just do what you know how to do, you know? And I think that's why I love riding so much, because it's a metaphor for life. And it's really awesome when you realize that you now are back in control. And you can just push into that. And that's when you get excited, because you hit that corner. You're like, well, okay, now it's fun. Now it's a roller coaster ride. Now it's fun. But before, it's terrifying, right? And any biker who tells you that they haven't experienced that before is lying to you. They're flat out lying to you, because everybody has forgotten how to ride a motorcycle when they hit a corner. The thing is that either you stay stuck in that forgetfulness and you end up in the bushes and you end up potentially getting hurt or take your own life, right? Or you pay attention and you get with the program. That's a metaphor for life with me. You know, when you're in the middle of starting a business or a relationship or whatever, and you got your kid, I imagine it's this way when you're a mom and your heart's on the outside of your body. I didn't have children, so I can only imagine what this feels like, but you have to trust that you gave your kids the news they need to be able to know how to do what they need to do. Whatever it is, you know, read the book or, you know, ride a bicycle or whatever. I wonder, is that true, Michelle? I mean, Julie, you have kids too, right?
I have a little dog. Fur baby.
Fur baby. Michelle, is that the case? Like when your heart's on the outside of you and your kids, is it different?
Yeah, it's, you know, I don't know. It's a roller coaster ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Even when I try something new with my business and I'm wondering if it's going to work or not, you know. I was talking to one of the guys on my Relentless Talk Radio, my Relentless Biker show last weekend. He's a doctor, and I'm always so grateful that when I make a mistake, it's a typo or it's the internet goes out or whatever. It's not like an implement left in someone's body or something. You know? I'm really grateful I'm not a surgeon as far as making mistakes are concerned. So the question today, the topic that we wanted to really cover is about changing the future and about investing in the future. Because I think that both of you, the thing you have in common is that you're investing in the future. I think, Michelle, what you do is so important as far as STEM is concerned, with the future of our world, quite frankly, and having kids continue to learn those skills so they can move forward and we can continue to stay competitive in our world. Those books are so important because of the future with everything. And also investing in kids who are differently able, because there's a lot of children that are not able the same as some kids, and they have an obligation, an opportunity to add to our society in a way that other abled kids can't or won't or don't, right?
Well, I mean, and I think that that's just the thing, is everybody has their own gift to give this world, right? Just because you're autistic or you have Down syndrome or you have something else going on, it doesn't mean that you don't have a gift that the world should be appreciating and enjoying. And I think that with games, what we're trying to do is we're trying to encourage parents to see that in their children, but also to see that in themselves. And so we're not just making an investment in the child, but we're making an investment in the parent, so that parent can be the best parent they can be for their child and really raise a child that they believe will have purpose and be able to accomplish something. Because I think sometimes in the disability community, we can go and say, well, I just want my child to be happy. And it's like, well, what does that mean? I mean, for everybody, happiness is living a purpose-filled life, right? Mm-hmm. And so we shouldn't look at people or children with disabilities any differently. They have a purpose. They have something they're going to love. And it's our job to make sure that they can do that and live a fulfilled, happy life with purpose.
You know, and what you're doing is supporting the parent so the child can do that, but also I think sometimes when I watch my girlfriends who've had children and my guy friends who've had children, that their life becomes secondary.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow there's supposed to be some rule book that you got that explains to you how you're supposed to operate as a parent of any living human being, never mind one that has abilities, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, having the ability to have your own dreams, get to work, brush your teeth. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but there's plenty of times where I've had to go to my girlfriend's house and say, you know what, I'm going to watch the baby. You go brush your teeth.
Well, when you think about, you know, when you have a child with a disability, your life is full of doctor appointments, therapies, evaluations. I mean, your life is really not your own anymore because you have all of these other things happening during the day. Most mothers that I know of children who have disabilities have to give up their careers because I could not work at a genetics lab, you know, 8 to 5 doing other things because I have to get my son to speech and OT and ABA therapy and all of the other stuff. And so really your life really gets put back onto a shelf. And so really it's trying to show them that, you know, you can be an entrepreneur and you can figure out how to start your own life and find that passion again and redirect it into something that you can still do at home while you have all these other obligations, because they don't go away. I mean, but you have to figure out a way to weave your life into their life so that it's not just their life and you're not there anymore. Because that's what you start to see. And it's really sad because, you know, these women have beautiful gifts to give the world and they've lost that and they've lost themselves. And it's hard to see, but it's fantastic to watch them find themselves again. So it's really powerful.
What you're doing is just so important. You know, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about my mom. My brother was diagnosed with schizophrenia when I was 12 and he was 18. And prior to that, he was just an unruly kid. Yeah. And, you know, there was a lot of disruption around managing that. And as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about what my parents went through. When my father passed, my parents were married 64 years. Wow. That's not usual. Usually when there's a disabled kid or there's a suicide, which is the case in my family's case, the marriage doesn't make it. So the work you're doing is so important, not just for the future of the child, but for the future of the parents and the future of their marriages, which are sometimes disabled because of the disabling situation. So it's good for you for taking a situation where you had your own grief around your children and your own grief around changing your career and turning that on its side and making it an up, which is what you've done. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor to help these women and just to be a part of their lives.
That's amazing. And Julia, how about you?
Well, I feel like I've kind of answered the question already, but you know, I'm investing in women and I'm helping them invest in themselves. And I believe that's changing the world. I mean, we live in a patriarchal culture, and that hurts everyone, not just women. That hurts men too. And so, you know, we all have masculine and feminine energy inside of us. But it's about, you know, discovering what balance works for each individual, each person. And just as a society, we're just out of whack. We're out of balance right now. So the feminine has been kind of on the back burner. And so, you know, I don't just work. I will work with men as well if they want to work with me. That I'm not like completely, you know, I'm not going to say no to a man that wants to work with me. I've worked with plenty of men over the years, and it isn't just about gender, but it's energy, right? Feminine and masculine energy, give and take, and all of that. So I'm helping people get more into balance, helping them get more into balance and more aware of their masculine and their energy, and also not just how it relates to money, because so money is very important. It is a form of wealth, but there's just many forms of wealth, right? And I've kind of boiled it down to about 8 different forms of wealth. I'm sure that we can come up with more than that, but I've decided to put it into categories to make it more simple. But you know, someone can have a ton of money, right? They can have a lot of financial resources, but not be very wealthy. They can be pretty bankrupt in other areas of their life, in their relationships or their work. Maybe they don't love what they're doing. Maybe they're making a ton of money, but they don't love it. It's not their passion. Maybe they're just doing it for the money and that's it. And you're not going to be happy if that's the case. They could be bankrupt in the fun department. Maybe they have no fun in their lives, they don't have any romance, or there's no, they don't have a spiritual life, or, so there's all different forms of wealth. And so I focus on all of those areas. We talk about all of those areas with each client, and I help them get clarity around those areas. I'm all about expanding the definition of wealth, because that term wealth shuts a lot of people down.
Yeah.
Most people, when they hear the word wealth, so I don't call myself a financial advisor, even though I am. Mm-hmm. I call myself a wealth advisor and coach and mentor, and I know that when I say that word wealth, that shuts people down, more women than men, in my experience. But I'm doing it on purpose because wealth is a much more expansive word. And I want to help women get more comfortable with that. And not just women, but everyone be more comfortable with the word wealth. And so I plan on, I'm going to be doing all kinds of things. I mean, I have all kinds of plans with my business, and I'm going to be offering all different types of mentorship programs and services. And, hopefully once COVID dissipates, we'll be able to get back together in person and have in-person gatherings. That would be nice. I want to hold a bunch of gatherings with big groups of women. So now I forgot the question.
We're talking about how you're investing in the future.
Yeah. So
it's my friend Henry Mulder, who's a flutist, actually. He used to have a whole different life, and he left that life, and he's been learning to play the flute. He's amazing. He was one of the guys when I had my gallery in Carefree that would come in and play music. And he's this Henry here, learning to get in touch with my feminine side.
Nice. I love it. We need a balance, right? We need more of a balance in order to change the world. We need to honor the feminine just as much as we honor the masculine. I'm definitely not about, down with the patriarchy and get rid of men and all of that stuff. It's like the masculine's important too. But we are a little bit out of balance. And so I believe that if women, and in one area where we're really out of balance, women, in my experience, is with finances. I mean, men are expected, in our culture anyway, men are expected to know about money and finances. Women are not.
Well, I think women are more vulnerable because women are the ones having babies. I think when there's divorce, a woman usually comes out, on the shorter end of the stick.
Right.
Not always, okay? There's different circumstances for everybody. And also, we're here generally, we outlive men by 7 years, and many of us are dated or married men that are already older than us. So if you look at the nursing homes, it's women that are there. So we actually have our money last longer.
Right.
So, when you go through a divorce or you go through a death of a spouse, there's a shift in, my mom is kind of handling this now because my dad in that culture, Irish, Italian, Catholic culture, my father was very much in charge of everything. Uh-huh. And she's having to learn about a lot of things that she wasn't even aware of until my dad passed. And, it's a painful experience to be learning that at 80.
Talking about stress, right? And fear.
COVID, my dad died in February, so then shortly after he passed away, COVID, everything shut down, and it was an interesting transition for her, and continues to be an interesting transition for her, because in that generation, the man was the man, the woman was the woman, and I think it's different now. I think women are expected to know more, and we are expected to earn half or part of a living. But I think what happens is when we go through divorces and death, the woman does come out on the shorter end of the stick. And if you are a woman that isn't lucky enough to find your partner in life, that you have that luxury of coming out on the shorter end of the stick after someone passes away, and you've spent your whole life just being the sole supporter, there's also inequities there. So it's important work what you're doing. You have a couple of different programs that you do, right? One called Wealth Star and one called Force.
Yeah, so Wealth Star is my signature series that I've created through my new business expansion, the She Flies with Her Own Wings. So Wealth Star is it's a one-on-one mentorship series, and it lasts for about 3 months. And I think I might be doing one for couples as well. I'm toying with that. So, but currently it's one-on-one, and I help women create or live a fulfilled and financially independent life. That's what it's all about. So financial independence, people have different definitions of that word. It means different things to different people. And that's one of the things that I ask my clients. I ask them to define what financial independence means to them. Sometimes some people believe financial independence is something that you achieve. They use that word instead of retirement. Instead of retiring, which a lot of people kind of see as a negative word, they prefer to use words like financial independence or financial freedom. But for other people, business owners, especially financially independent, they want to be financially independent now, at least in my experience with most business owners that I know. That's something that's very important to them. But so anyway, it means different things to different people, but that's what my series is all about, is helping women align their deep core values and their gifts and their greatness and their desires and their wants, helping them align that with their finances. Because, that's how we change the world. I mean, one of the ways we change the world is how we spend money, how we choose to spend our money. People don't realize how much power we have to change the world on a daily basis, like multiple times a day. Everything that we decide to spend our money on, not just money, but energy, right? Resources of all kinds.
Yep.
We all have so much power and we don't even realize that. So I help women focus on, take control of the things that they can control instead of focusing on the things that they can't. I help them align their values and their gifts and their greatness with their money. Because I found that, most of us have some type of money issues. We all have all this different programming around money with our parents and people, our friends. And I mean, we're just constantly bombarded. Most people don't even know what their money beliefs are, and if they really are their beliefs, or if they're their parents' beliefs or their friends' beliefs, or what they heard, one of the talking heads on TV says about money. So I help them really get in touch with what their personal beliefs are about money. And then I help them really examine those beliefs and transform their relationship with money.
I'm reading right now a book that I was kind of, the name of it just bothered me, but it was recommended by one of my mentors, and I'm always open. It's called Secrets of a Millionaire Mind.
Oh yeah, I've read that book. Yes.
By T. Harv Eker.
Yes.
One of the things that he talked about was what your financial blueprint is, and what your family thought about money, what they taught you about money.
Right. Yeah.
As I'm listening to Julia talk, I'm thinking about the fact that, when you're a parent of a child with different needs, you're not just gonna, and you probably know what I'm gonna ask you, right?
Good.
They're not 18 and they're out the door, right? I mean, it's not just your emotional life and your personal life and your marriage that's shifted, but it's your finances as well, because that child is going to be, one of my girlfriends, my girlfriend Jill has a son that will be consistently and constantly either her responsibilities or her elder son's responsibility, or some of the children. And what if your child's an only child and there's a whole part of planning around finances that people don't even think about with other able children, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, most people they're like, oh, well, I have these children for 18 years and then they're going to leave and they're going to do their own thing. And for many of us, that's just not the case. So yeah, so we do a lot of talks about special needs trusts and wills and guardianships and all of that, because that's a huge part of it. I think the uncertainty that you feel as a parent of a special needs child, especially with who's going to take care of my kid or help my child when I'm gone is a big concern. And it's one of the things that keeps parents up at night. But if you're educated and empowered and you know about these different trusts and you know about guardianship and you have things put in place for your kids, then you feel at ease. So we have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of safety nets in place for our kids because you have to. I mean, you have to think that far out that you might. Now, my goal is always going to be that they're going to be independent. They're going to make their own money. They're going to figure out their life. But then the other part of my brain is like, well, what if they don't? So what's your safety net? What protects them in case they have to live in an assisted living place or they need someone to come over all the time to help them? And so, yeah, that's always definitely part of the conversation and part of the thoughts that special needs parents have. And Julia, I'm sure that you have talked to a lot of those people, but finances is a huge concern, especially as the children age and as the parents age.
Mm-hmm. And the other piece of it is, as for myself, like I've never been someone's person before. I'm my mom's person. And it's made me go, okay, wait a minute. Like I've made some decisions that I just am very careful about because I don't want to put my mom in a position where she's alone without me, right? Or normally I'd be like, I'm caution in the wind, not thinking, right? So you've got parents that are not only dealing with the concern over their child, but an aging parent at the same time. So it's a very different kind of sandwich. You know, you've got an elderly parent and you have a child that needs you to function as a grown-up. So just the thought of both of those things together, the amount of pressure that puts on any human being is a lot. The work you're doing is so important. Because and Julia, do you work with women that have any differently abled children that help them to kind of to navigate through the trust funds and all that stuff?
Yes, yeah, all of that. Yeah, I've been a licensed wealth advisor for 20 years. So I started out with a firm right out of college. I was there for 4 years.
Right?
What's that?
You started out when you were 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I was with them for 4.5 years, and then I went out and started my own financial firm and registered investment advisory firm. And so I'm a fiduciary, and every single client that I sit down with is, even with my WealthStar mentorship series. So I have different companies. My licenses are held with my other company, Rockstar Financial. So she flies with her own wings. I'm still licensed, right? So I'm not completely free to just say and do whatever I want because I have those licenses. But clients are not required to work with me as their financial advisor if they don't want to do that. They go through the WealthStar mentorship series, and then 3 months is up, and I'm going to help them. I'm going to give them I'm going to tell them what types of trusts that they should look into establishing. I'm going to refer them to other professionals, to accountants and CPAs, and it depends on their situation. Attorneys, whatever they need. That's the whole point, is that I'm going to educate them and I'm going to arm them. I'm going to give them all kinds of tools. And every single person I work with, it's geared towards them. So I've got this series. It's 6 parts. It's 6 different Zoom sessions, and then we also talk in between if they need to. We email and text and all of that. But
compliance doesn't allow you to work with someone that you're coaching. They can choose after you're done.
I figured out a way. So I had my own practice for 12 years and I sold it. And I got out of the wealth management business completely. I let all of my licenses lapse. It was a really big deal. It was really hard for me to do because I worked really hard for those 12 years.
Understood.
I had to grow my business by myself, 100%.
So you had a coaching business after your licenses were
yes. And then
you go back.
So then, then I chose to go back. So then I had a coaching business. And then throughout that period of time, because I always knew what I wanted to be able to do, but it was so frustrating because of compliance and all of that, right?
Yeah, I know. 100%.
Things have changed. The industry has changed. And I've got connections and I'm very tenacious. And I finally figured out a way to do both. So I've got my Rockstar Financial.
Yeah.
I've got that business, and where I do, I manage money. I do help set up insurance and all of that. I recommend, tell clients what types of trusts they should have. I help them save money on taxes, all that kind of stuff. And then I refer them to professionals. But through Wellstar, that's separate. So She Flies with Her Own Wings is separate. That's my coaching, mentoring business. And because I've been in the financial business for so long, I know what's appropriate and what isn't. So I know what I can say, what I can't. I know where that line is. I'm very, very clear on where the line is. So I bring my clients through the series, and then, some clients at the very beginning on my first appointment with them, they say, oh yeah, I want you to manage my money. I want you to do it all. I want to keep working with you. I want you to help me with everything. They know right away. Other clients halfway through, other clients at the end, they're like, okay, now I'm ready to have you, manage my money. But then some of them don't need that. Some clients don't have money to manage. Everyone's in a different situation. And one of the issues with the financial world, with the financial investment world, is that most financial advisors, wealth advisors, are all focusing on the top 1%. They're all competing for the 1%. What about 99%? What about all the rest
of the people, the rest of the normal people that are just trying to put gas in their car?
Yeah. So of course I can help the 1%. I can help anyone. It just really, but there are some people, if they're very financially poor, resource poor, then there's not a lot I can do for them. But I wanted to be able to help anyone that wanted help.
Right.
I didn't want it to be based on, okay, you have to have a certain number of assets in order for me to help you. That was always so hard for me, because it's not just about the money. It isn't.
I love what you had to say about a balanced life is more than just the money. But it's to your point though, if you haven't got resources, it's really hard to make a shift, to get that pressure off of you. If you've got a different little kid, how am I going to take care of that kid in the future?
Right. So there's different people go through different phases. We all go through different phases in life, right? And so it's helpful so I help people wherever they're at right now.
Right. Even making a plan for what can you do in the future.
Yes.
So Michele, do you have anything coming up that you'd like to tell people about, as far as workshops or programs that you're putting on?
Right now with COVID, things are kind of crazy because it just is. A lot of what we offer anyway before COVID was all online. All of our programs are online because for parents of children with disabilities, it's hard for us to get out. So we do guided meditations, we do webinars, we do lots of different kinds of fitness classes on our program. We did file to become a charity, so now I just kind of watch the IRS tax, website for it to get approved. But we've already started writing grants. We have a couple of different programs we're ready to launch once we get approved. And so it's really exciting to actually have this kind of downtime to organize and to restructure how we want the charity to work in the future, because it will look different, because I've learned a lot in the last year and a half. But I am also working on legislation, and so that's getting very exciting. So writing to our local senators and trying to make changes in some of the laws that we have here about parents and the support that they get or don't get. So lots of stuff. But it's very awesome.
If you haven't looked at the Isagenix, the ISA Foundation through Isagenix right here in Arizona, they have grants that you can apply for in September and April, I believe.
Okay.
And they like to focus on children and nutrition. So I know that nutrition is important with autism.
Yes, very.
So you might want to check that out in April and September and see what kinds of grants they have available. Isagenix used to just randomly give to the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yeah.
And they're second behind only Disney in gifting to the Make-A-Wish.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
A year ago, they decided to create, probably almost 2 years ago now, that they created the ISA Foundation. They opened up that pool, And the ISA Foundation is 100% run by Isagenix, and so 100% of the donations that come in through the orders of folks that choose to consume Isagenix products, right, is towards the charity. So check it out. Isagenix is one of my partners, and I think that you'd be surprised at some of the things they're doing there. ISA Foundation. If you need an introduction to anyone, please do let me know.
All right, I sure will. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I wrote it down. I'm gonna look it up as soon as we're done.
And how about you, Julie? When's your next program?
Well, WellStar, that's my latest one that I just launched recently within the last few months. So WellStar is my main one. And then I also, you asked about Force. So I also do business and performance consulting. So or coaching, I'm sorry. So that's another thing that's separate. That's also kind of a 2 to 3 month thing. And then people can still work with me after that. After the 2 to 3 months is up, we can continue on it. So
you're not like self-guided. It doesn't start at a particular time and end at a particular time. It's like
it's one-on-one. I love to work one-on-one.
One-on-one. All right, cool.
Because everything. What's that?
It's not a group thing. It's a one-on-one thing.
It's a one-on-one thing. Yeah. I mean, I will eventually have some groups, but everyone's situation is completely different.
Yep.
So I just believe in it. I believe in one-on-one. That's what I've been doing for 20 years. I love speaking in front of people. I love doing groups. I am a speaker as well. Yeah. I have worked with couples a lot in the last 20 years. So I could do that right now, honestly. I could, if there is a couple out there that's watching right now that wants to work with me, I can work with you. We can do the whole series for couples. It'll be on Zoom. In the past, I always worked with people face to face. That was how I started out. Right?
I think that COVID has opened up some interesting opportunities.
Yeah. So now,
both of your websites scrolling on the bottom. I want to make sure we stay under an hour so that I can load this to Instagram television without having to do any special things. So Julia, she has it with her own wings.com.
That's it. Yeah. And then I also have you got it. rockstarfinancial.com. Thank you.
We'll do the hyphen in between. So rockstar-financial.com. Yours is knowitallbooks.org and Dames, DAMESUSA.com, correct?
That's it. Yeah.
And Michelle, do people email you or call you? Do you like to communicate that way, or you just do it through your websites?
Yeah, all of my contact information is on the website.
That's okay, cool. Same thing with you, Julia?
Yes. Contact me, send me a text, email me, call me, whatever you're more comfortable with. You can fill out the form on the site, and then we'll schedule a one-on-one consultation, discovery call, to see if there's a fit. And then I'll give you all the details on that call.
Of course, me, if I were you, I'd be saying to Michelle, hey, how can I do a little group something, or it's a little live thing for your people? Because I think that you probably have some really good information to share with Michelle's peeps. Am I thinking out of the box there, Michelle? Would you agree that?
No, I agree. Yeah, it's just all about knowledge and empowerment, right? Because if you know what you have to do financially for your kids, then you feel like that weight gets lifted off your shoulders. So yeah, we always have webinar speakers, and Julia, if you ever want to come on and do some kind of a financial breakdown webinar, that would be awesome.
I see a direct referral source for you too, because Michelle would be a great resource for you when you have a person that comes in that's got a differently able kid and that might need support. So I want to thank the two of you very much for coming on Relentless Talk Radio. Both Julia, especially you just filled in a blank last minute. Who is this chick? Because you're in Austin, Texas. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. You're like, how do I meet you? And I'm like, well, you're actually a 4 referral deep person, which is this works. So I'm looking forward to seeing who the two women are that you guys refer for next month. So the second Friday, the third Friday of next month, you guys will be referring someone that you think is dynamic and awesome that will be part of the Women's Mastermind, Relentless Women's Mastermind. So we're at 59 and 18 seconds. So I'm going to say, see you later, girls, and definitely keep in touch. If you have any programs that are coming up, please keep me informed so I can let people know.
Thank you so much.
All right, Bye. All right, guys, it's been episode 94 of Relentless Talk Radio. Come back again on Tuesdays from 2:30 to 3, coming up here in the new year to hear the next Relentless Rock Stars and what they have to say next week. Take care.